America. And I use that term purposely, judiciously, to refer to the United States of America. America is an idea, and that has ramifications for our rights, for our obligations and responsibilities, for our duties, particularly as Christians. I want to start this video reading a G.K. Chesterton quote. This is from What I Saw in America. America is the only nation in the world that is founded on a creed. That creed is set forth with dogmatic and even theological lucidity in the Declaration of Independence, perhaps the only piece of practical politics that is also theoretical politics and also great literature. It enunciates that all men are equal in their claim to justice, that governments exist to give them that justice, and that their authority is for that reason just. It certainly does condemn anarchism, and it does also, by inference, condemn atheism, since it clearly names the Creator as the ultimate authority from whom these equal rights are derived. Nobody expects a modern political system to proceed logically in the application of such dogmas, and in the matter of God and government, it is naturally God whose claim is taken more lightly. The point is that there is a creed, if not about divine, at least about human things. So, I've been thinking about American identity, I think, as a lot of us have recently. And I think it's easy for us to forget sometimes that America is an idea. The United States of America, that's a notion. America is an idea. It's also a creed, a belief that gives telos, right? A belief that gives energy toward a goal, momentum toward a goal, a belief that guides behavior. It's also a covenant, a contract, an agreement between consenting parties. Now, some of that was hashed out in the war between the states. Irretrievably, possibly, hashed out. But there are a couple of things I'd like to unpack right now. One is this idea that a pact was made, a covenant was made. The whole idea of secession is based on it's being a recourse in case the pact is broken, right? And I use pact easily for covenant. Well, first of all, because I think it's a fair synonym with different shades, obviously, but also because in Portuguese, those of you who know my background, in Portuguese, when we talk about God's covenant, we talk about God's pact. And in some ways, the word pact can be more immediate for us. I think we picture hands clasping when we think of a pact. But regardless, pact, covenant, contract, agreements were made based upon an idea. And so then patriotism for us, for Americans, is different than it is for people in most countries. Now, patriotism can be different depending on the nation, right? So until very recently, if you were French, well, it was, France was largely, even though it had an empire, overwhelmingly, it was monoethnic. Right? To be a citizen of France was also to be ethnically French. The British Empire was a little different, and they have the whole United Kingdom thing, where people are more loyally English or Scottish or Welsh than they are British. But then, of course, you have those who are British first, for whom the United Kingdom is the big idea that they're patriotic about. So patriotism can be xenocentric or not. For us as Americans, it certainly is not. Right? Patriotism for us focuses on an idea, and that idea is malleable. That idea can change. That idea can even be imperialistic. That idea can be spreading the gospel of democracy around the world, for example. But it's always an idea, because that's all the United States has ever been. Right? We're not simply Englishmen who declared independence and then let a bunch of Italians in and enslaved a bunch of Africans. Wrong order, but there you go. From the beginning, we were multi-ethnic. From the beginning, I mean, the English who settled on the coast of South Carolina made war with, enslaved, and made treaties with the natives. And then the Scots show up, and they don't let the Scots land. They tell them to go upriver. And then later in South Carolina, you have large waves of Germans and constant waves of people from the north, from the very beginning, from the Ohio River Valley, from Kentucky. Scots-Irish. Anyway, we were never just English, right? Maybe the Canadians, but not us. And regardless, it was really more about the declaration we made, like that meme, right, where Michael Scott from The Office is standing in for Thomas Jefferson. You can't just say you're independent now. I didn't say it. I declared it. You have very good health this morning. So, what do we do about times like now? Here's the second idea, and I'll kind of connect them as I close. It's not really a thing to say, if you don't like China, leave China, right? If you don't like France, leave France. We say that here in the States. We don't expect anyone to do it, right? But we will say about some Jane Fonda-like celebrity, hey, if you don't like it, move to Canada. And they never, ever do. But why can we say that? Because we have this idea that being American involves consent. Because being American is believing in something and having agreed to something. If you don't consent to be American anymore, that's fine. Just, get on out of here. That wouldn't occur to a lot of people around the world to say about their nationality. And we can have a whole separate video about the artificiality of a lot of other nations later. It wouldn't even occur to people to say. For most Americans, for the overwhelming majority of Americans, there's no genetic component to being American, right? So then, in times like this, does patriotism wax or wane? In times when the government has, following a buildup of many decades, clearly betrayed its people, abused its people, promises to do so more. What is America? What is this creed? What is this covenant? Do we double down on the way we think it ought to be? Or do we say there needs to be something else, something better? And of course, in the background, for Christians, there's always that something greater and better, right? Like in the Chesterton quote, there's an understanding that there must be a creator, at least, in the American cosmology. But now we are governed by a state that is run by people who don't believe in anything higher than the state. Where is morality going to be defined from, right? So if that conversation can't be had, what do? We should have a vision. There should be a vision. And it's too soon, I think, at this point in American history, for us to unite behind one vision. But what we can't do is just stand still and accept this is how it is, or this is what the United States is. You know, I'm saying is and not are, right? The United States are, the United States is. We can't just accept, right? We need to be building something greater and better. And in some ways, we're in more danger than we might be in other nations. I say we. Well, who's the we? Is the we Christians? Are Christians in more danger? Yes. But what I principally mean, actually, is Americans are in more danger. Because there's nothing undergirding this. The Christian faith isn't undergirding it. And there's not a tribe, a clan, a people group undergirding this either. And that's just fine. But we have to realize that we're playing a different game than a lot of nations. Our identity has always been an idea which has always meant that it's more malleable than the identity of many others. And we've seen it be shaped for some good and for some ill. There's no rock upon which this thing is built. Well, at least we've removed the foundations, right? And if the foundations be destroyed. So, to finish the video, be aware, be cautious. Have as part of your life, as you are, as an American saint, building your life, building up your family, building your business, just building what you do, participating with your church, just being an American, being a, dare we say, a taxpayer. Have an idea of what you want to be building. Because you'll find that there are other people like you, and there will be different groups. And in our children's or our grandchildren's time, that will have been significant. I know a lot of you think it'll be significant in 10 years, think something significant and violent may happen in the next 10 years. I don't think so. Possibly. What is fearful and fearsome is the idea that we might continue to be slow-boiled. Right? We have to think generationally. So we need to come with an awareness to know that we're in the pot and the fire is on and be moving toward the edge, right? We can't simply declare that it's over or declare that we've won. But in order to progress towards a reclamation of what the United States ought to be, of what America is, or toward a new republic, we need to build, we need to plant now so that our children and our grandchildren can harvest and use that to fuel their efforts and perhaps complete our work. If we're not aware, if we're not trying to build, if we're not moving towards something and finding allies, then we will lose these here United States of America simply by inertia. So just stop the inertia. That can be our generation's goal. The peace of Christ be upon you.
Aí sim é um homem de verdade, não é esses troços do grupo não, essas carcaças velhas, uó, fim de carreira.
Cadê você, profeta, autarquia? Hein? Pedrada no inferno, fala comigo aí, matador de demônio. Hein?